guests. I'll be your host. I'm Rick Dowling, the Customer Success Leader here at Junior Golf Hub. Before we get started, just a few rules of the road. All the participants are going to be automatically muted, as well as we won't be able to see your video. If you do have any questions as we're going through the information, and for anyone here on our special panel tonight, please just throw them in the chat and we'll try to get to as many as possible. A special thing we're going to be doing tonight to help you guys follow along, if you want to take your phones out and scan that QR code at the bottom right of the screen, you'll be able to start a free trial of our premium membership. And we're going to be touching a lot of the features that come with our premium membership here tonight, as well as a lot of the education. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to scan that and start creating your account. Okay. Like I said, we are joined tonight by a very special panel of guests that bring a lot of experience, not only in developing junior golfers and athletes, but also at the college coaching level, college playing level, and actually a rising college golfer who's now a senior in high school. Like I said, my name is Rick Dowling. I'm the Customer Success Leader at Junior Golf Hub, and I'm a former Division I collegiate golfer at Fairfield University. I'm joined tonight by my special friend here, Roger Nick. Roger's the founder of Junior Golf Hub, GPC, and Ethan Allen Preparatory, three special businesses and companies in the golf industry that really promote junior golfers to get their greatness and success on the golf course, in the classroom, and in life. Roger has 20 years of experience developing junior golfers, professional golfers, and professional athletes across all different levels. So it's very special for him to be here tonight to share some of his insight with us. We also have two members of the college coaching community, Danny Randolph and Alex Kirk. Danny Randolph coached at Bethel College, Lynn University, TCU, and most recently at Johnson & Wales in Miami. He has 15 years of coaching experience across many different levels, NAIA, Division II, Division I. Alex Kirk was the coach at Dartmouth College for about 10 years, and he's been a Class A member of the PGA since 1999. And our final special guest is Jackson Roman, a current high school senior from Connecticut. Jackson just signed his letter of intent with Loyola University of Maryland to join their men's golf team as a member of the class of 2025. Thank you all for being here tonight. Another special thing to kind of check in for tonight's presentation, we have the Junior Golf Hub College Checklist. This is a really special document that's going to keep you organized. It's a step-by-step guide to the important milestones of the college golf recruiting process. It goes freshman to sophomore to junior, and then all the way to senior year, leading up to the National Letter of Intent signing window in November. So if you'd like to view that, just scan that QR code now. It'll also help you follow along during tonight's presentation. Great. All right, so now to the good stuff. Tonight's agenda. We're going to talk briefly about what you need to know about the NLI, and then we're going to get to the 5 things you must do to sign next year, and then we'll get to some questions that you guys submit during the presentation. So what is the NLI? A good way to think about it conceptually is really that it's the finish line of the college golf recruiting process. Here you see a past Junior Golf Hub premium member, Tristan Nelko, with his family on signing day. Tristan signed with the University of Nebraska. It's a really special day. A lot has led up to this moment in a junior golfer and a junior golf family's kind of journey and process. But a good way to think about it is that it's just the end of the road for the college golf recruiting process. So Danny Randolph, why don't you share a few fast facts with the audience about what they need to know about NLI?
The NLI is an agreement between yourself and the school that you're choosing to attend. The NCAA Division I, II and NAI have that, as well as the junior college. The little difference with Division III is they kind of have like a celebratory contract, so it's a little bit different. But what it does is basically um, commits you to the school. So when you hear people say things about having verbal, to a school, that's all it is a verbal agreement. The National Signing Day is something that really makes it binding to the school that you've chosen. So it's very official. It's almost like you're signing a contract with an employer.
Awesome, Danny. Thank you so much. So what you guys are probably wondering is, yeah, that's great. We know what NLI is now, but how do you really get there? And there's this image that we like to use at Junior Golf Hub. It's picturing the junior golfer and their parent at the beginning or at some point in the college golf recruiting process. And you're seeing this thought bubble that has a lot of different topics and themes that are on your mind that might lay ahead. You know, you have to build a resume, you have to perform college research, perform college golf research, reach out to all their coaches, think about your academics, think about all these rules, think about scholarships, what tournaments should I play in, go on college visits, all these different things that are going through your mind. And it can be a little daunting, but the good news is that you can do it. But what it takes is a sound process or a game plan for what you know is ahead of you and how you're going to attack that. You then need knowledge and the tools to execute on that game plan. So what we're going to do tonight is really try to arm you with those three things. And the 5 things that we identified that you must know or need to do to sign come next year or your senior year are the following. Number 1, you must give college coaches a complete look at who you are. Number 2, you must get real to get ahead. Number 3, you must talk to coaches and develop a relationship. Number 4, you must forget rankings and play the right tournaments. And lastly, you have to complete and submit all the required documents on time. So we're going to get into number 1 here. This is give college coaches a complete look at who you are. Now, the Junior Golf Hub is really designed to give you the opportunity to centralize all of your information that goes into your journey. And therefore, you're going to have kind of a home base to use with all your college coach communication. So I'm going to throw it over to Jackson. Jackson Roman, like I said, he's signing with Loyola University of Maryland for the class of 2025, and he happened to use Junior Golf Hub Premium to support his journey to get there. So I'm going to have Jackson run you through his account, and you'll get a good look at what a college-bound member's profile looks like.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, so I use Junior Golf Hub. It was a very helpful tool. If you start at the top, what's really great is it just kind of shows you all of the basic things, especially a coach is looking for right off the bat. School, what your stature is, scoring average. As you go down, you see my bio, which I was able to, tell some stuff about myself that's not exactly golf related, which coaches love to see. My goals, everyone has goals. I think it's great that it's right up top too for coaches to see. Cool facts. If you go down, you see my personal information, all my scores. It really just organizes it in a good way, so it's easy to access and easy to read. My academics, photos. It separates match play and stroke play results, which was great because sometimes it's hard to tell which tournaments are which. You're able to put in photos, which helps a ton because especially right now with coronavirus, coaches can't see you out there, so it's good to have videos and photos. And then the farther you go down, you get more specific information, my stats, contacts for coaches to reach out, which is very important, especially for me. And coaches can't exactly come out and meet you. They always, at least for me, my coach contacted some of my coaches and high school advisors. And it was just a great tool, especially for me. And it was good that I could put it in emails that I send to coaches because it's the easiest way to organize all of your stats, just it encompasses who you are, and especially now coaches can't see that. So this was a great way, especially because it's hard to write an entire email and really show who you are, and you're really trying to establish that connection with the coach. And this is really just one of the best ways, especially for me over the past year, that I was able to do that in a very collective way. Thanks, Rick.
That's awesome, Jackson. Thanks for going through your profile and showing everyone your kind of history of your scores and your swing videos and all that. And I'll try to get my pronunciation of your school down so I don't fumble over that anymore. But congratulations again, buddy. We're happy we could have supported you on your journey to the next level. So Jackson really showed you guys a tool. I mentioned earlier the process, the knowledge, and the tools. The Junior Golf Hub profile is going to be one of those tools that you need to arm yourself with to really get that exposure that you want. It allows you to put everything in one space, and then Jackson mentioned the ability to easily connect and share that with any coach out there. It's just what you need right now, especially in the pandemic. Coaches can't come out and watch you play and compete, but what do they need to know about you? It's all in one space. So thank you, Jackson. All right, moving on. Number 2, get real to get ahead. So in this segment, we're going to talk about the importance of the PDI self-assessment. We're also going to talk about how it's a big world out there and that you have options. Next, you have to know what you want and where you fit in. And then with that information, you have to figure out how to perform realistic college and college golf program research. And then we're going to give you 8 questions that are going to help you kind of hone your list of target schools to get all this done. So we're going to start with the importance of the PDI self-assessment. I'm going to throw it over to Roger. So Roger, why is the PDI self-assessment so important for junior golfers to know?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rick. And for all you out there, obviously we see so many players putting up scores in their tournaments, but the self-assessment is so important to kind of know where you are in the process or in this journey of development. I think so often we kind of put the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse here with kind of jumping into tournaments that we may not be ready for because we've been told that that's what we should do. So one of the things that we've looked at for years is, where am I in this journey and what are my skill sets that I have to see if I'm actually ready for that. So we look at this from the 5 elements of success standpoint, and what are my golf skills, what is my desire to want to improve that, and how do I need to improve that. And obviously, as a college-bound or hopefully a college-bound student athlete, you're looking at academics in that light as well. Same thing with the physical aspects, understanding your physical performances. We know, again, more coaches are looking at young athletes that the better the athlete, the better they can acquire skills, the better foundation to maybe move on into their sport and play at a higher level. So I think that's really important to understand where you are as an athlete, because it's going to help you. And obviously, being the best athlete you can, nutrition is a big part of that. And then what kind of coaching you have. Am I getting the right information for my coaching? Or what I need to do is learn how to play the game out on the golf course and assessing your mental skills. We do a grit scale test, and I think that's so important for people to understand. I'm setting this goal of playing college golf or maybe even beyond that. Do I have the fortitude to kind of move on and move past that, or the grit to get past that and put in the work and understand that there's going to be a lot of failure in this journey. That's really important. And then having the right equipment, to being able to assess the equipment you have. Is it, allowing me to put out there my best effort or my best results if I don't have the right equipment? So it's really, really important there. But, going through the Junior Golf Hub, doing the self-assessment really helps kind of just start, these players, on that journey of where I am today. And it's just a marker of where I'm at today. And then, we go through a coach-guided assessment as well to help, kind of further that development, if you will.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger. Yeah, I know we have a lot of different grad years and ages that are in the audience tonight. Anybody can take this self-assessment, and I think it's important that you know where you are, whether you're at the beginning, middle, or even end. But if you don't really know, then you don't even know where to begin or where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I had known about the self-assessment and the 5 elements sooner myself,
Yeah.
to be quite honest. So all of you guys out there, this is a really, really special, important part of our platform, another one of those tools that we're talking about. And we'd like everyone, if you'd like to scan that QR code there on the screen, you'll be able to go right into your account and begin the self-assessment. The self-assessment is just probably like a couple minutes just to, like Roger said, touch on all these different elements ask yourself some key questions, and then get moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think it's really so important to, as you say, get real to get ahead. And if you know where you are, obviously you've already set your goals, but if you know where you are, it's easier to go, kind of do the right things to get where you want to be, So, do the self-assessment. It'll help.
Great. Thanks, Roger. All right, on the same note of get real to get ahead, it's going to be a common theme for these next couple slides. Understanding that the college golf landscape is really a big world. There are a lot of opportunities of different shapes and sizes, and quite frankly, there is a home for everyone, nearly everyone. If you're a boy who doesn't break 80, there is still a home for you. If you're a girl and you can't break 90, there is still a home for you. But it's just a matter of performing the research and getting acclimated with the landscape to then find that home, really find your right fit. And it comes back to getting real. You have to understand where you are to actually, be realistic with yourself and then know where you fit in.
Right. And that being real is if I'm shooting 90 and I'm a female, golf athlete, I'm not going to go play at Oklahoma State or Alabama.
Right.
So it is, let's be realistic of what your aspirations are and where you are. So.
Yeah, and I think, Roger, you talk about it all the time, the PDI is a moving marker. It's
Right.
not finite and concrete.
Right.
You can start when you're 14 and you can move up.
Yeah.
And your fit might change based on how you're moving.
You got it. Well, I mean, what it really is you're looking at measuring potential,
Yeah.
and all you're doing is saying, hey, I've got this goal, and these are small hurdles to get through as I move through the PDI assessment. So, and that's really important. Again, as you said, big world out there. There are plenty of spots, but it really does take you to be realistic with yourself and know where you're starting from.
Exactly. So yeah, taking that self-assessment and then finding out where you fit in this large landscape. I mean, the 2,200 programs are really about 1,250 on the men's side and about 950 on the women's side across all of those divisions you see on the screen. There are also other options, as you see there on the top right. One of the things we like to talk about, especially for rising seniors and juniors, is the National Collegiate Club Golf Association. This isn't varsity golf, but it's kind of like, it's still very competitive. And this is offered, I think at this point, by 400 colleges in the United States. And the good part is, even if your college doesn't have club golf yet, you can start your own program. They give you resources to help you do that. Or you can just compete as an individual in the association. So that's a great option. It's a great organization. You can find a lot of information about them online and then find out if your college of choice has that option. Another thing, I know, Roger, you and I talk about it a lot. It's kind of an overlooked option these days is the gap year. I don't know if you have any information to share about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, understanding where you are and what your goals or what you're aspiring to, I think, taking a gap year for a lot of young people is a good option. I think, again, especially in the landscape that we're in right now, with so many schools and universities having some not very clear on what's going on with their programs and how many spots are going to be available because of the extension of eligibility. So I think this, in all years, really is a really great time to think about a gap year or really take a gap year. Give yourself an extra time to be ready physically, mentally, get your skills ready, and see how that actually works for you. We've had a lot of success over the years having kids come in developmentally, maybe late bloomers, and I think there's a lot of late bloomers out there. Again, athletes coming to the game a little bit later, developing more golf skills, if you will. But being ready from an academic standpoint is great. You can go ahead and work on getting your academic workload done, get that out of the way, and obviously pick your schools. Go ahead and put some applications out there, and hopefully you get into the schools that you're selecting, and then maybe you have a defer a year, and then you have another year to kind of work on towards where you're going. So I think that's another option for gap years, and then obviously just taking a gap year holistically and just working on your golf and maybe taking a break from academics as a whole, and really just maybe taking some classes and learning is a really good option.
Yeah, I think myself, it's important for all the juniors out there and the families to understand that your journey might be different than other people's journey.
Yeah.
Giving yourself that extra year, it might be different or different than other people's journey, but if you really need it, if you take the self-assessment and you know where you are and you need extra time to develop into the athlete you want to be, don't be afraid to think about that as a serious option.
Yeah, and I think too often people look at a gap year as a negative thing, and it really, and I'll throw this to Danny and Alex as coaches, and you probably get an athlete who's another year mature, another year mature with their skills. It's just probably a little easier to have them on the team as well. I don't know if you guys have any comments on the gap year, Alex or Danny.
I think the gap year, like you're saying, it just depends on the situation. I mean, it could be a recruiting balance. I mean, I've had players that took a gap year just because of recruiting slots, and it worked out great. That they took a year to develop, and came in, hit the ground running. So I mean, every situation's different, but it is a good possibility.
Yeah.
I also think that it helps development. A huge part of that, whether you're female or male, just emotionally, different things have happened to people in high school and all that kind of stuff. And that gap year is a big difference maker for a lot of people. They get a lot bigger, stronger, maybe, but also just kind of mentally, they're able to be a lot better before they show up as someone who's 19 as opposed to 18.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, so in summary, guys, you guys have options, and it's a big world out there. So in the same topic, get real to get ahead, there are some questions that if you're at the start of this kind of research process and you're starting to learn more about where you are, there are some things you can ask yourself and as a family to kind of really better hone in on your target list of schools. So Alex, I'm going to throw it over to you to go through these eight questions that can really help the family get started.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bullet points that you've put out are great questions for everyone to answer themselves. I'd almost maybe move the finances to the end, but look at the schools, the majors that you're interested in, the campus settings. Whether you'd like to be in a metropolitan area or maybe a smaller rural town. Also climate. Whether you want to be in the Northeast or in the South, being able to play golf outside year round in practice, or obviously in the snow belts, it's a little challenging. You'll be in a simulator a lot. And then I would use, the golf experience. That how does it fit in to your college experience? Is it at the competition level you'd like to play at? Do you like the coach? Do they have, what are their golf facilities like? Do they have, how close it is to the golf course? I mean, you might have, some of the Northeast schools sometimes drive 45 minutes just to get to practice, practice for 2 or 3 hours and then 45 minutes back to campus. Could affect your academic time. Different support systems, do athletes get free support or tutors to help you through it? And then, overall, it's finding the balance of that experience, trying to see where golf fits in there. I mean, I would say, getting back to the self-awareness, that coaches are looking probably for the top 2, top 3 players on their team, that their recruits are coming in should be impact players. I mean, they're not looking for 4 and 5 players in the lineup. Those are a dime a dozen. And then overall, just trying to figure out where what scholarships are available. Ask the questions that you need. I mean, sometimes there's academic merit money and also other options for financials through sports. So, compare apples to apples and find out what the bottom dollar is for each school, I think and have an open mind too. There might be some schools out there that you might not realize. And, through the hub and different resources, you might find a school that could be a perfect fit for you. You just don't know about it yet.
Yeah, Alex, that's great. I know one of the things that we over the year, Alex, have always talked about, and which I love about your directness, and obviously it has to be a perfect fit, or it has to be a good fit. And a lot of times kids aspire to play at a school that they may be on the team, but they might not get an opportunity to play. And I always thought you explained that pretty well, which is go to where you want to play, not just be on the bench somewhere. That you're not looking to recruit somebody who's to your point of it's a 5th or a 6th player. It's what kind of impact, but you talk about that a lot.
Yeah, no, I think I look at that in the total experience. I mean, sometimes I see in my time that players are so stuck on Division One when you could find a good Division Two, three school that has a great academic program, and you might be a star. You might be the top three player on the team, and you're getting to play every week. Or at Division One, you'll be sitting at home and the bus is leaving, and you're wondering why you're not in it. And which experience do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been able to experience that with a couple of our players here that they could have played at Division One programs, decided to go to Division Two, and became All Americans, and now on the Corn Ferry Tour with John Vanderlyn, and I think Mike is soon to follow. But they went to where they know that they could play. They knew that they would have more time playing, which obviously honed their skills more. So I think that is a big part of the decision process that I think a lot more players need to ask themselves. It's not just about what's the name on the box. It's am I going there to play, or am I going there just to get a bag and a shirt?
Yeah, and I would come in with questions too. You're probably going to touch about this later on, but you should ask the coach what it's all about because you're going to be there for 4 years with them, and it should be a win-win for both. Like if they have early morning practices and you don't want to get up then you know figure it out before you get there. But you want to find the right fit for the right man.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, Alex, I think this is going to be kind of a common theme that you're going to see through the rest of the presentation, where some of these are a little more cut and dry and easy to find the answers to. But then you'll have to kind of do research and get to know the coach to actually find out some of the stuff about 6, 7, or 8. But in general, we just talked about the big world out there, and now these 8 topics or themes will kind of help you start to make that list a little more manageable for you. So now that you have those questions and you understand it's a big world, now how do you actually perform research and college research and college golf program research to then come across the possible fits or the target schools that you're going to kind of begin to communicate with? So Danny, I'm going to throw this one over to you. What do you really suggest for people to do in order to start looking at colleges? What kind of things should they be thinking about?
Well, a lot of things of what Alex said, he did a great job of explaining, kind of the process that coaches think about and what they're looking for. But the hub has a section, as you can see here, that has the college searches. And it has an advanced search of scoring average and places in the sense of warm weather, cool weather, all that kind of stuff. And as you go through that, it's going to put you a little bit more kind of in your target situation. Another thing with that is, obviously, as Alex said, is anytime that coaches are recruiting, they're trying to bring in people that can really play and help their team right away. So you kind of need to look at that and see where you perform with that. And then in turn also is where some people that are in that kind of 4, 5, 6 range for the team, maybe that's where you're at. So you can find all that stuff out on the hub. It gives people a lot of information on everywhere from the first player down to the 5th player. And also then obviously where you're at with weather. Everybody wants to go where it's warm. Not only is that a matter of just people in the U.S., but people internationally. They want to come down, to Florida or Texas or California or Arizona, places that obviously have good weather a lot of the time. So you have to remember there's a lot of people vying for those spots, and you have to make a difference, in yourself with that. But another thing too is remember that a lot of times in high school compared to college is that it's 2 to 3 shots different. You're playing longer golf courses typically. You might be playing tougher golf courses. You might be playing PGA Tour level golf courses, 2 or 3 times a year, or maybe more. So that's what coaches are looking for too, is to see if you can compete at that level because they know the golf courses that they're playing compared to maybe what you played as a junior player. So just keep doing that. Keep looking at this stuff. Make sure you use the filter that really breaks down the geography, your division, scoring average, all that stuff, and I'll give you a lot of information. That QR is right there, so go ahead and scan on that, and that'll get you a little bit more information for your research.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. I think what Danny just touched on there, Roger, was what you talk about a lot, which is the skills to challenge ratio. People sometimes don't understand where they are versus what the real challenge is, and they kind of get skewed.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, because you don't really know, because you're looking at it in such a at a micro level, not a macro level of what's out there in the world.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I hear it all the time. I'm talking to parents on the phone, or I'm talking to some juniors at a tournament, and they're saying, hey, I looked at the kid they just recruited, and I beat him in every tournament. Or I'm looking at their team, and I'm the same as that they shoot, but there are some details that are different. And, you know, Danny touched a little bit on that. We're also going to get to that a little bit later as well. So that's good stuff there, guys. All right, so we're on to number 3. And this is a really, really important one, probably the most important one. You have to talk to coaches and be comfortable developing a relationship with them. So we're going to talk about coach communication and then some rules and regulations that surround coach communication. So Danny, I just said like this is one of the most important ones, and probably something that we see junior golfers shy away from, maybe because they're not experienced with it or what have you. But why is it so important for the junior to develop a deep relationship with coaches and the programs that they're looking at?
Well, it's everything. You also need to make sure that you develop a great relationship with the head coach, not the assistant coach only. A lot of times assistant coaches are looking to move on, so they may not be there for the full time that you're there. But right now, with COVID and coaches not being able to come watch, and since the Division I coaches, remember that Division II and NEI can get out and watch you play. I know some NEI schools are having people on campus for visits. So there's a difference in that. So if you talk to a coach and they say certain things, make sure you understand what level they are and what they can and can't do, you know, through that. But a lot of times coaches want good people on their team. They want people who, you know, are good teammates, that they're not necessarily only in it to see what they shoot, but they're there for the good of the team. And they want to develop that relationship and see what the difference is in each player. A lot of times at the highest level, you know, like I said, you have a lot of good people that want to come to your school. And with that being said, what sets you apart that's different? I think having the hub and all the information on there is key. PDI is another thing that's really important so that coaches can see a difference between two people that kind of play at the same level. And why would they would want to recruit someone else over you, or they would want to recruit you over someone else. And so that's important. But make sure you're always communicating as much as you can with emails, letting them know what you're playing in, how you played, the good, the bad, you know, all that kind of stuff. Tell them what you're working on. Maybe you have some recent lessons that you've had, recent lessons that are on video that you can send, you know, just a little clip to let them know. I think that's important. Having as many phone calls as you can with coaches. Anytime something happens, let's say that they've done something, make sure that you give them, you know, maybe even a handwritten note. That's something that's way different than what people do this, you know, in today's world. A lot of times they'll just send a text message, or they'll maybe send an email. Yeah, a handwritten note would probably go a long way in separating yourself through that. Make sure that you get plenty of FaceTime, Zoom calls, all that kind of stuff. And then lastly, I think is a huge thing now is social media. Coaches can't watch you as much, so they're going to see what you're doing on social media. Make sure that you are putting things on there that, you know, coaches want to see, and that they know that you're making good decisions. Anybody who sees stuff that's going on, you know, online in the sense of social media, and they don't think that that's something that they want on their team, then maybe they won't recruit you. So it's just those kind of things is really important. And obviously, anytime that you get a chance to be on the phone with them, whether that's a FaceTime, a Zoom call, or just a phone call, is develop that relationship at a deeper level. You know, I think another thing is trying to, once you ask the coach how their family's doing, what's going on in their life. You know, maybe something's happened, like they've had a baby, or maybe they just went on a vacation or something. And so it's just important, you know, for you to know that if you can develop that deep relationship, that's really important, you know, through this whole process. You know, as they get to know you, because it's a difference and a change between buddies as they recruit two people that are, you know, pretty similar, you know, in score or GPA or what kind of money they might be, you know, looking at to give. And so that's important.
That's awesome, Danny. I think, yeah, every coach that we talk to, they stress, like, I need to know what kind of person you are. I need to know how you handle, you know, bad rounds, all the things that people don't say. They're different. It's not just your academics and your good golf scores.
Yeah.
It's everything else. It's like the intangible factor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had I have an incident where, you know, a player didn't get recruited because he never asked a question about the coach or his family or his program. It was all about him. And so it's really important that you connect with the coach and the team and what they're about as well. It's not just about you. And I know, Danny, you mentioned being proactive and persistent. It's so important to do that as well.
Yeah, I think to your point, Roger, and you've probably seen this over the years many times, I think kids aren't proactive enough.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, they're so often they get a little nervous about what do I need to do? I didn't shoot the score that I wanted. But Danny mentioned, just the things. Maybe you had a lesson. Maybe, you're talking, you have a video you want to share, what you're doing in practices. I mean, they want to see these things, who you're, what kind of player are you developing into. But, I always tell the story about, a player, many years ago who got an opportunity to play at a very high-end school in a good golf program only because he was persistent. He wrote a handwritten note to the coach every week until the coach really relented and said, come down, I'll take a look, and he gave him an opportunity. So that persistence, because you want to be at that certain school, paid off. And I think that's another part of this is that, you're doing this because you want to be at a certain school, not because you're just being recruited, but it's because you're driving that bus to where you want to go. And so being persistent about that means something. It's just not empty.
Yeah, it shows effort. Right. Yeah. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So a lot of good stuff there, guys. If you want to follow along, there's a big article in the Hubs Essential Guide, which is our main educational library. If you scan that QR code, you go right into the coach communication article, which features a lot of great information, what we talked about, but also a sample introductory email template, as well as some tips on how to prepare for phone calls and FaceTimes and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to scan that and jump in there, go right ahead. So number 3 still, talk to coaches and develop a relationship. So the rules and regulations surrounding coach communication has kind of been fluid over the last couple of years. A lot has happened. They changed the rules back in 2019, and then just this past March, COVID hit, and that has even thrown us into a bigger flux. So here, I'm going to throw it over to Alex. First, Alex, maybe tell people, characterize where we're at right now. We're in a dead period. And then maybe talk about some general rules that you have to kind of think about when you're communicating with coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going through some unprecedented times, as we know, with COVID. And the easiest way I kind of look at it is that you just can't really have face-to-face meetings with the coaches, but you can still communicate through email, the Junior Golf Hub. You could Zoom, Skype, FaceTime. So you probably have to get a little creative to try and get to know people. I mean, I think campus tours at this point might have been canceled at a lot of them, but if you're willing to travel to them, that's up to you to check out the setting. But you even if you're on campus and you traveled cross country, you cannot meet with the coach face to face, even if they happen to be there. In normal times, I guess that being said, I mean, I think the key dates usually are June 15th of your sophomore year is like the opening date to when you can start to communicate with the coaches. I don't think it hurts to reach out to them before that, but I think in the instant gratification world that we're in, you're not going to hear from the coach until after June 15th of your sophomore year, because that's when the NCAA regulates it. And the other key date probably is August 1st of your junior year. That's when the official visits can start. You're allowed 5 official visits. You can have unlimited unofficial visits. You can go there on your own to check it out. But you are entitled to 5 official visits to 5 different schools. I think you're just trying to introduce yourself, kind of like Roger said. You're trying to create a rapport, even like Danny brought up, I think you're trying to be genuine and find the right fit for both of you. I mean, I would have ways to find out if you like the coach and the program, and the coach also has to feel invested in you. So, I mean, maybe Jackson could jump in and maybe give how he picked his school a little bit, or.
As you're saying, it was a lot different for me, especially since I wasn't able to talk to the coach in person or any of the team for that matter. So I really took advantage of emailing, using the my profile, and also Zoom calls. I actually committed on Zoom call. I don't think that's happened many times, which was a fun and interesting experience. Uh, for me, I wasn't able to do any visits before the pandemic hit, so I was able to at least walk around the campus on my own a little bit, along with the golf courses I was able to go see that they play at, which was useful. So, I mean, I just tried to use whatever resources I had to the best of my ability, and that was what really helped me choose my decision.
Awesome, Jackson. Thanks, Alex. That's great. And yeah, that's cool. You said that. Who thought you would ever commit over a Zoom call? That's awesome. We're gonna move on. That was a lot of great information about developing a relationship and how important that is. But another big one is number 4: forget rankings and play the right tournaments. It might be a little controversial, but I think it's the right way to think about it. So here we're going to talk about the 3 levels of tournaments for junior golfers, as well as how to play a balance of local, regional, and national events. So Roger, I know this is something that we talk a lot about at the Hub and at GPC. Could you tell the audience a little bit about the 3 levels and kind of how to think about them?
Yeah, so a big thing for us is making sure that our players, one, get introduced to playing competitive golf in what we would consider a local event, which is typically 18 holes. Obviously, younger players, it's 9 holes, but U13, it's 9 holes. But 18 holes is close to your house. It's shouldn't be overnight, and really just draws a local field. A regional event is more like 36 holes, and that it draws players from around the state, maybe around the region, usually within maybe an hour or 2 hours of your home. And then national event is 36 holes plus, with a field across the U.S. Obviously, it can be in your region, but it's typically more of a national or an international field. And I think that's really important to kind of, again, this goes back to the self-assessment, knowing where you are, picking the right tournaments for you, not because they're ranked or has a ranking attached to them, but really it's where do you fit in the playing levels of where your skills are is so important at that point.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really easy way to think about it, guys. There's just 3 levels, and you kind of, like Roger said, the self-assessment will help you see where you fit in, and then you kind of have to progress through them at appropriate times based on how you're playing, how you're feeling, how your game progresses as well. And so now we're going to get into kind of year by year, how many should I be playing and kind of what's the balance freshman through senior year. So I'm going to throw it to Alex and Danny. Maybe Danny, you can go first. Maybe throw some examples of events as well. What would be a regional event and what would be a national event, and why is it so important to kind of get to those come junior and senior year?
Yeah, I think that you need to everybody should take a picture of this screen right here. It sets it up really nice for you, gives it real good information, kind of on the percentages and things. One thing for us, for instance, like I live in South Florida, so a big event that you might want to play that's more regional would be something that the South Florida PGA puts on. There's a lot of kids that come and play. Another thing would be like an FJT, which is the Florida Junior Tour. Obviously, there's a big, Florida's a big state, and the Junior Tour is, very well represented, not just in the state of Florida, but other tournaments and things. And then I think when you look at a national event, one that we have here is, the Publix junior event that's at Doral every year. And so if you can get into that, it has a ton of international players that come in as well. And so you can kind of get yourself into a position there to look at. The Junior Orange Bowl is another one that's in Miami. It's another that's a huge international event. It's tough to get into that one, but once again, that's just something that's a high level event and national/international. And that's just kind of a couple examples. Typically with national events too would be some higher level, AJGA events if you can get into those. If you ever are invited into an invitational, that would be huge, or certainly U.S. Boys Junior, Girls Junior. If you happen to be able to get through and play in U.S. AM, both men's or women's, those things are obviously national and huge events. So that's just a couple examples, of where that is. But yeah, I would definitely look at this screen and take a screenshot of it because it's really set you up well for a lot of questions to be answered of your number of tournaments, where you want to be at locally, nationally, and locally, regionally, and nationally throughout your time as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. So I'm sure Alex has a couple things he'd like to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think you have some great ideas there. I mean, I think it depends where you are too. The USGA, the ones obviously the premier ones. Even if you're a junior trying for the AM or the Opens, sometimes you might not qualify, but you could still have a good showing and show your competitiveness from a longer yardage. I know, like even in the Northeast, the Northern Junior in Connecticut was a big tournament that the AJGA does a great job, but obviously there's only so many spots available, and you might be a good player that maybe just didn't have enough points to qualify, and you're looking for the opportunity to play. So you just have to find a balance. I think the local to regional to national, you just have to find the balance of where you're at. I mean, sometimes it's not worth traveling across the country to finish in the bottom third of the field. You have to assess where you are. I mean, I also think that sometimes you might be able to travel to an area to visit some schools in a normal year without the COVID issues, and play in some tournaments that might be in the area of where coaches might be. So, I mean, I think everyone's in a different situation, and you got to find the balance to it, I think, is the key, and the growth.
Yeah, those are great points, guys. And Roger, I'll ask you as well. I mean, we have there the big test every season, but the other thing is, like, forgetting the rankings part, the difference between creating a schedule optimized for like end results versus development. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we see all the time, right? We're getting parents asking what tournaments we should play in, and then they come back with a whole list of tournaments they want to play in, and it usually doesn't jive well because, typically, you're hearing from a college perspective or from parents who want players to, maybe their kids go to college, here at tournaments that they have to play in certain events because they have certain ranking, weight in this and that. But the reality is it just goes back to where my skill level, am I learning how to compete? Am I learning how to win? Am I learning how to close an event or finish an event? And I think that's so important. And I would, probably, say to Alex or any coach, and we've talked to many coaches out there, hey, if you've got a, kid who is just dominant local, dominant regional, and test the waters nationally and still does okay, you're probably still seeing a very strong player. It's not, they're not doing that because they're trying to get rankings. They're doing that because they're just trying to challenge themselves to play at each of these different levels to know that they're, continuing their development. And obviously that's very difficult because you're also looking at how much time do I have? And I think if you put the effort in, maybe not playing a tournament every week, but, as these tournaments are laid out here, from a tournament schedule, is that you're preparing yourself to play your best when you do play. And I think that's so important. In which one of those things we always talk about with our kids at Golf Performance Center is the big test. Putting yourself out there in an event that's really a little bit outside your comfort zone, a little bit maybe outside of your skill level, just to see what that level of competition is. So I know Danny mentioned that the U.S. Junior qualifier or a qualifier like that really gives you a perspective of maybe, hey, if I aspire to play at this highest level, then this is what I'm looking at. And I think that's really important to do that. But again, start, crawl, walk, and run, is really kind of our motto. Just making sure that you're progressing through at the right time. There is also the idea that, hey, freshman, sophomore, junior, you're still physically developing, mentally developing, skills are developing. And as we're going through growth spurts, there's a time that maybe you need to pull yourself back out away from maybe a national event or even a regional event, just because neurologically you really you're not kind of connecting well. So you go through those awkward teenage years. So we see that quite often. Everybody goes through it. Some go through it better than others, but being aware of that could be affecting your scores or affecting your development. So we don't want to ruin their confidence by playing the wrong event at the wrong time.
Right. That was great, Roger. All that those years of coaching experience really came out there. That was good. But yeah, guys, just go back to that slide. It's a very easy way to think about how to set up your tournament schedule. Get that number there, get that balance there, and you'll be great. Now we're going to move on to number 5. We're going to talk about completing and submitting all the required documents on time. Speaking of time, we're running a little bit behind schedule. So Danny, could you go through this pretty quickly? If you guys want to scan this to download the graphic, it's a great way to stay organized, but maybe hit a few of the bigger points here for everyone.
Yeah, I think the biggest point, and you can do this at the beginning of your freshman year, like it says on the right, is make sure you get into the eligibility centers for either NCAA or NAI. If you can do that, that's a huge start. It'll start putting you through all the steps that it takes to make sure that you're eligible. I'll make this real quick, but I've had athletes in the past that literally are ineligible because they don't turn stuff in. Not because they didn't have the grades, not because they didn't have the test scores, but they literally did not turn stuff in after having multiple things sent to them to be turned in. So make sure that you're doing that, that you're doing well. Eventually the SAT is going to come back where you will have to be at a certain level in your SAT. So make sure you keep that in mind. It's not going to stay away forever. It is at the moment, but it's probably going to come back here pretty soon. And then staying in contact with the financial aid office, admissions, all those things are really important. FAFSA can save a lot of money for parents and players as time goes on. As Alex said earlier, make sure that you're applying for outside scholarships. You know, a lot of people are not going to be getting full rides at the moment, so you need to make sure that you're getting stuff in other ways, and then obviously apply to the schools that you want to go to, and make sure that you target the right fit, as we've kind of said a few times, tonight. But I can't emphasize enough to make sure you get things turned in when they're supposed to be turned in, whether that's through the eligibility center or the schools that you're looking at.
Yeah, it's great, Danny. Thank you so much for going through that. And I'll leave it up there just for another couple of seconds if you guys want to take a screen capture or scan the QR code. But again, that's the summary of the key checkpoints kind of on the freshman to senior year journey, and then the target dates to start or complete those.
And we also have the college checklist, right? So if they have that as well,
Yep.
it helps a lot. So.
Yeah, guys, the college checklist at the beginning that has all that information on there as well. This was kind of just a summary of all the paperwork items, just like the standardized tests or even the FAFSA, and then leading up to the National Letter of Intent. Hey, Jackson, I'm curious, the last 2 items there, applying and signing, how many schools did you actually apply to, and then which decision did you kind of select?
Well, I was actually kind of lucky in a way because I only had to apply to one school, and usually that's not typical. Usually, you apply to many schools, but since I was able to commit to a school, it kind of eliminated the process of having to apply to many schools. And then after that, it was just signing my letter of intent. So it was very easy for me.
That's great. Yeah, a very unique experience. I'm glad, though. It kind of takes a lot of pressure off you guys. All right. That's awesome. That was all number 5. So we went through our 5 things that you need to do to sign next year or your senior year. Hope you guys got a lot of great information. But now, let's fast forward, and theoretically you've signed just like Jackson. We're going to have a couple parting shots for you. So number 1 is keep working. And I'll go around the horn here. I'll start with Roger, then I'll go to Danny and Alex. But why is it so important that it is the finish line, but it doesn't really stop here?
Well, no, it doesn't stop here. We're just beginning here, right? Because now you've caught the car, if you will. If you're the dog chasing the car, you've caught the car. Now what do you do with it? So now it's actually, I got to keep working my tail off to make sure that I get good grades. I'm still working on my golf. I'm still working on myself as a human being. So as we always talk about, is the 5 elements, right? Is that my desire to want to continue to improve and seek out good mentorship and good coaching and physically keeping myself in shape so I don't injure myself. Again, I'm just getting started. I want to be an All-American when I get to college, right? So that's important. Obviously, taking the mental assessment and understanding where you are. Are you continuing to develop yourself with a growth mindset so that really makes a big difference, and then always checking the equipment. And I don't mean just golf equipment, but just everything around you that's going to help reduce the stress in your life. And we always say the 5 elements is more than just about golf. It's really about setting yourself up for life. So that's kind of how I look at it, and I think a lot of success comes from those who are following that that kind of philosophy.
That's awesome. Danny, what about you?
I think you need to understand that once you sign your letter of intent, you're about anywhere between 8 to 9 months away from you going to that school and getting started. And so, how much better can you get in 8 to 9 months during that time frame? Because I'm sure Alex can touch on this too. Is there's some people who have not gotten better during that time, and so you recruited somebody, you've worked for somebody, you've signed somebody, and they show up and they are not ready at all because they kind of, as Roger said, they got to the car, but the dog got hit by the car. They didn't latch on to the opportunity. So we've been there, and you see that, and it's very much detrimental. So, how much better can you get between now and then? Because you can get a lot better in 8 or 9 months if you have and work on the right things.
That's great. And Alex?
Yeah, no, I think they're spot on. I mean, I would say that it's definitely not the finish line. I mean, even academically, you got to finish school strong so you can still qualify to get to the college that you're driving to. And like Roger said, I mean, you got to keep working hard. I mean, how's your game going to get better? Do you mind, body, and soul just trying to get your golf scores the best they can be? And I always ask every year. I kind of have the players write a legacy statement, and what do as a freshman, what do you want to be remembered for? Even 5, 10 years after you graduate. So how much of an impact and commitment do you want? We, as coaches, Danny and I want someone that's going to hit the ground running and raise a trophy together. Do what you can do. It's more of a springboard, like Roger said, into your life about how you can use golf to enhance your opportunities.
Yeah, that's awesome, Alex. I think one thing that I'll add, just in my experience, I think I wasn't prepared from a time management perspective on what it meant to be a student athlete at the college level and how much really goes into being a college golfer and also being a college student. Being a college golfer is a big time commitment, and if you're not used to that or prepared for that and trying to get the work in and practice that leading up to that, there's gonna be a learning curve there. So for all you out there that are kind of rising seniors or juniors, start working on your time management skills now and hold yourself accountable now to be better off freshman year.
Awesome.
Parting shot number 2. It's a funny little graphic here. We have Jackson. He's signed. I think that's him holding a trophy. I don't know why he's holding a trophy because he can't drive the bus, but the student athlete must drive the bus. This is a really big one. Everyone we talk to says, oh, yeah, of course, but in reality, it doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
And this is not just like little things like I play my tournament golf and all that. It's across the board. So I'll go in reverse here. Alex, why don't you start us off? Why is it so important, and what are the kind of things that the athletes don't really usually do, but they should be doing? He's on mute.
Are we getting him?
Alex, I think you're on mute. I don't know if you can hear us, but you're good? Okay. Danny, why don't you take this one?
Important for the student athlete to do the things that are necessary in this process. You learn through it, you grow through it, you show the coaches that you're responsible. When you come to college, it's completely different than high school in a lot of different ways. And so for you to be able to step in and do those kind of things is really important for your growth. As Roger said, there's a growth mindset as well, not just in your golf game, but in life. And if you can drive that bus, it makes you a whole lot more attractive to be recruited, through that process. It's everything. And I know that parents get involved, and that's fine in some areas, in some ways, but as a whole, student athlete really needs to take advantage of this opportunity to show college coaches that they're ready to do this, they're ready to move on into that next stage of their life. Because last I checked, in the grand scheme, not many parents are living in college dorms with their students, their kids. So that's definitely something that you need to learn and do right away from a young age, and that'll show, like I said, a lot to the college coaches.
Yeah. Roger?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the student athlete has to drive the bus. I mean, that's no two ways about it. We hear often, when, coaches, if we talk to coaches, they're watching those student athletes out there on the golf course, pet peeve, having their parents, pack their bags, bring their bags from the car to the golf course, putting, backpacks and waters, and, the student athlete has to drive all of that, signing up for tournaments, being able to talk to college coaches about their tournament schedule is so important versus when they get asked, hey, where are you playing next? And they go, I don't know, I'll ask my mom. Just doesn't really cut it in the ownership of that. So I think it shows a lot of responsibility of a young person that takes the ownership and says, this is my journey. I want to own it, and living that journey. And it says a lot to the college coach that this isn't something you're doing just for a college scholarship. You're doing it because you love doing it, and it's part of just who you are as a person. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's a great point, Roger. I think you hit on it. Like if you got into an elevator with your boss, you had 30 seconds to talk to him about what you're doing and what the company needs to do better. It's the same thing for the athlete. If you can't get in the elevator and tell, like you said, the coach your schedule, your development plan, the kind of schools you're looking for, asking them questions, that shows that you own it and that you've shown effort to engage with those kind of things. Mm-hmm. If you can't do that right now, you need to self-assess and then get moving immediately. Learning about all those different things. So those are our two parting shots. Now we'll open it up to some questions. We'll probably spend probably 5 minutes trying to get to 2 or 3 big ones. If we don't get to your question, we'll respond out via email to you. All right, question numero 1. It's coming up from YouTube. As a freshman, what should I do to best prepare myself for college golf? That's number 1. So I'll leave it up to the panel here. Does anyone want to take that one? As a freshman, what should I be doing to best prepare myself for college golf?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead and take it.
I mean, I would say I would start with the assessment really to see where your game is, to get a game plan to improve your skill level and then down the road you'll play better golf, I would think, and get your academics in order.
Great answer.
Yeah, love that.
Simple, easy. Let's move on. Number 2, does every college golfer sign an NLI, or do you need one to play in college? Roger, you want to take that one?
No, not every college golfer needs to sign an LOI, and you can play college golf without signing one.
Right. Great. Another easy one. Let's go to number 3. Question via email. How many schools should you be targeting? That's a good one. Danny, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that. I think it's a matter of where do you want to be at? So if like to say you want to be in the Southeast, then you just target however many in there. It might be 5, 10. I wouldn't go crazy and send out 75, but I think that you can manage 10, 15, 20, especially as a younger player, as a freshman, sophomore. As Alex said, you can do the assessment to see, and where you're at compared to those programs. And then as time goes on, it'll start getting narrowed down. But I would start with a decent number that you can send out enough information to all of them and stay on top of it, and not just send this mass thing to 100 different coaches. So I don't think you're going to get much of a response, through that whole process. But yeah, something that's manageable.
Good answer. The one thing I'll add to that one is the sooner you kind of have experiences, whether you go on college visits or you play in a certain area of the country and you maybe like it or don't like it, the more those experiences you get, the better you can answer the big questions we had earlier, the 8 questions that'll help you hone in. So the sooner you hone in, the smaller that list will get. And hopefully, I think by junior or senior year, like Danny said, you should be kind of getting in the single digits there. You can start a little bigger than that, but getting towards single digits, junior, senior year. Number 4, is there a big difference in competition between D3 and D2 or even D1? Alex, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can look at the scoring averages. I mean, I think there's a difference, but you have to find out where your numbers fall. I would assume that Division Ones are closer to par, if not under. And I know on the women's side, like Division III, if you could shoot around 80, you could be playing probably on the top 10 team in the country. But I think the scoring averages are probably posted in the hub, and you can find where you fit. I mean, like Roger was saying before, if you're shooting 90, I don't think you're going to Duke, Stanford, or Oklahoma, but you might find a school out there that can fit you.
Perfect. Great answer. All right, we'll do a couple more here via email. Is there a limit to the number of times I can contact a coach? Again, is there a limit to the number of times I can contact a coach? Danny?
No, there's not a limit at all. Just understand, depending on where you're at in the process, it's like a freshman, sophomore, they may not contact you back. You can continue to send things, but they cannot respond to you until those dates. So you can have unlimited messages sent, whether that's through email or through text message if you happen to have their cell phone, those kind of things. But yes, I would continue to send things to coaches time and time again, or as we mentioned earlier, even handwritten notes sometimes can get you a place on a team.
Awesome.
But I would add that if there might be some self-awareness. If the coach isn't getting back to you, there might be a reason.
Yeah, I like that.
Very true.
Good point. All right, we'll go to the last slide here. We're going to put some special links up again as a quick reminder. Let's give us a second here. So if you'd like to follow us on social media, we do often post athlete spotlights, some of our better players highlighting if they won a tournament, had a hole-in-one, or shot a great round. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram there. We also post some really cool updates about changes in the junior golf landscape, some things about the 5 elements and the PDI assessments. So follow us on social media. And then if you didn't get a chance, you can scan that QR code all the way on the far right there to get in there and start your 30-day trial of the Junior Golf Hub Premium. So that concludes our show for the evening. I appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for tuning in. I especially want to thank Roger and my co-hosts here, Danny, Alex, and Jackson for helping us out. And hopefully you guys got a lot of great information tonight. And check us out on the Hub.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rick. Well done.